Hi guys, I'm back again. This is going to be a vlog type thing. I attempt not to say the word quite so much. Generally means that my thought processes are kind of a little fractured. I've been sitting here and I've been thinking about life and mental health and things that get to me. I don't know, and I just felt really, sad. I mean, that's the other thing is I never finish sentences properly. Kind of get stuck on another tangent halfway through the thought process. So I've been doing, really quite well mental health-wise. I've had a really good month. That's not to say that I haven't had the same things happening that I normally have happening to do with my my mental health issues. It's more that I've been able to deal with them better than previously. I'm sure my therapist will be very proud of me. I'm quite proud of myself at the moment too. It doesn't mean I don't still get all of the stuff that's associated with it. If you're new to my channel, you may not have watched my previous videos on this kind of thing. So I have post-traumatic stress disorder, an anxiety disorder, dissociative disorder, and depression. The anxiety can go into panic attacks, which is actually an interesting topic in itself. I see a lot of portrayal of panic attacks and anxiety attacks being this really obvious type thing, that people are physically shaking and uncontrollable and screaming and yelling and ripping their hair out and that sort of thing. And that's, for some people, yes, it is like that, but that's not necessarily the case. The person right next to you could potentially be having an anxiety attack, and unless you know what to look for, you would never even notice it. You could be standing next to me while I'm having an anxiety attack, and unless you're paying attention and you know the signs for me, you probably wouldn't even know. I get them a lot when I go out, like when I go shopping, particularly if I'm in a place with a lot of other people or a lot of noise. And for me, really the only thing you're going to see me doing is taking big breaths and blowing them out in kind of and that'll be about all that you'd actually see, unless you're really paying close attention. I might be tapping my leg with my fingers or tapping my foot, or sort of fidgeting more than normal. But on the outside there is very little sign that there's anything going on, because it's all happening internally. And the reason I internalize so much is because when I was being abused, the worst thing I could do was show my abuser how I was feeling. So you learn to hide the things that you are feeling and the way that you are feeling, and they become very much an internalized thing, and they don't show on the outside very much. This also leads to quite a bit of dissociation, because you effectively kind of split that part of you that feels the emotion away from your physical self. So physically you don't show what is actually going on, whilst still feeling the full impact emotionally. It's kind of like being two people. And that's really what my dissociation was like for a really, really long time. I have it much better controlled now. But for a long time it was literally like being two people. The sort of the emotional me was sitting up behind, watching the physical me living life, but not actually engaging with it on any real level. And so now I still find it difficult to show when I'm feeling something like certain types of emotion really strongly. I internalize it, and physically there is virtually no sign that anything is actually happening, whilst inside is a tornado going on. I have management strategies and coping strategies that I employ. Generally that means getting somewhere nice and quiet and away from most people. Like if I'm at home and I have that happen, I tend to put my headphones on and listen to music and do something that focuses my attention. So like I'll do like a jigsaw puzzle, or like on my computer, or play a game or something like that, because I find that focuses my attention down, and I find music very calming. It's probably one of the weird things that my family sometimes notices, is that I will be having an anxiety attack. Well, that's what they'll see, is because I put my headphones on, it means Mum's not coping. But then I'll start like bopping along to the music, and it's not so much it's like a physical release of the emotions. I segue them into something different. Instead of like punching a wall or something, I will bop along to music, or I will sing along with the music. It doesn't mean that I'm fine and happy and dandy. It just means that's how I'm coping with what is going on in my brain. It's almost a way of distracting all the other parts of my brain, whilst the bit that needs to deal with the anxiety gets a chance to deal with the anxiety. I mean, everybody has their own coping mechanisms for mental illness, regardless of who they are. Everybody does things a little bit differently. I know my partner sometimes finds it a little frustrating because I don't really talk about it. I don't let him know how I'm feeling all the time, and I don't necessarily let him know how things are manifesting. And that's because that's how I've always dealt with it, is I've dealt with it on my own. I haven't really put it out there. There were periods of my time that I didn't have the support to do that, and obviously when my abuser was around, that wasn't an option. And when you do something for an extended period of time, it becomes much harder to change the way that you do things. So, yeah. So on the outside, people who meet me, you would never know. There's no outward sign that there's anything wrong. And that's the problem with mental health issues, is that there's usually absolutely no physical indicator that there's anything wrong with that person. They look completely normal. And you learn, a lot of us learn very early on, to act very, very well. Like, to pretend that everything is fine. And so on the outside, everything will look fine and dandy, and the person will look, they'll smile and they'll tell jokes and they'll be all happy. But inside, they're falling apart. Inside, they are in turmoil. And they want someone to reach out to them, but they're also afraid to reach out. And a lot of that has to do with the stigma that surrounds mental illness. Some people think that people who are mentally ill, particularly if they're like me and are on disability, they think that we're just lazy, that we're not trying hard enough. For me, I didn't actually want to go on disability. It was something I fought against for a really, really long time, probably longer than I should have. In the end, it was actually Centrelink who said to me that I needed to be on it. And the reason they told me that I should go on it is because they basically changed the way that it worked, and now they review you every 2 years. But what they said is that then gives you 2 years to not worry about anything else but your mental health and getting better. All of the pressure for finding a job or any of that kind of stuff, that is all removed whilst you focus on getting better. if that's at all possible. In my case, I will never be better, as in cured, never have a problem. It will always be there. However, I will learn to deal with it better, which I have been doing. I've made massive, massive strides particularly in the last month. And this in itself is actually something of a problem, because some people around you will think, oh, they're better. And they stop being sensitive, they stop being caring, they stop being supportive, because they figure you don't need it anymore. And of course, this is not the case. It's not that I'm cured, it's not that I'm over it, it's that I'm just managing it better. I still have all of the same stuff happening. I still have the nightmares happening that I get, the flashbacks. I still have the anxiety attacks. I still have the panic attacks. I still feel hopeless. It's just that it's not every minute of every day like it was before. Now I can go a couple of days without feeling completely hopeless and with no motivation and no energy. Now I will only sleep all day, maybe once a week or twice a week instead of 4 or 5 times a week. My ability to function is improving, and that's what it's all about. It's actually not about getting better. It's about being able to function. It's about being able to live a decent life without it impacting every second of every day. And this is the thing that people who don't understand mental illness do not understand, is that when you're at your worst, it affects everything. Every second, every day, every thought, every action is impacted by the way your mind is telling you things are. It's not everybody agrees with this kind of analogy, but it is like having a physical disability, like not being able to walk, or losing an arm, or having other illnesses. The effects are very much the same. They just don't look like they are, because it's not noticeable. It's like somebody whose mind is affected by dementia. When you look at that person, they might still be quite spry and active and running around. And it's not until something happens, like they start talking to you or they have an episode, that you actually notice there's anything wrong. Up until that point, it's like, oh yeah, they're fine. And it makes it hard for people to accept that there's actually something wrong, because there's nothing obvious. And human beings are, if nothing else, guided a lot by what they see through their eyes. And unfortunately, that then means that those types of the people whose mental illnesses get displayed in a very physical way, like by having very loud kinds of panic attacks, or people who, grab a gun and go around and shoot people, or people who do crazy stuff while they're having an episode, they then become the benchmark for the disease, because that's what people see. They think, okay, so that's what it looks like, because this is what's being portrayed, and this is what I can see with my eyes. Whereas the majority of people who are living with mental illness don't do any of that stuff. They're ordinary people who live very ordinary lives. Sometimes they're rich, sometimes they're poor, sometimes they have everything, sometimes they have nothing. Has nothing to do with your social status, has nothing to do with the lifestyle that you lead. Some of the poorest people in the world are also the ones who don't have depression. because they're just not those kind of people. Sometimes the richest people in the world are the ones with depression. Just because you have lots of money isn't going to protect you. And just because you have no money doesn't mean you're going to get it. And it's not contagious. It's not something that you can give to another person. Yeah, your mood could bring other people's moods down, but you can't catch it. It's something that happens to the individual. Yes, there is sometimes a genetic predisposition. As in my case, there is a genetic predisposition. For some people there's not. They've never had anybody in their family ever have anything. And of course then it's harder for their family to understand because they've never had to deal with it before. In my case, my kids should be really good at dealing with it when they get older, because they've pretty much lived their whole lives with somebody dealing with it. So I'm doing better, and that's really good. And I appreciate all the love and support that I get. And I really wish that everybody who was going through what I've been through got the same kind of support that I've been given, and the same kind of opportunities that I've been given. And I really want to reach out to more of those people who are going through it, and let them know that no matter how bad it gets, that there is a way forward. Sometimes it takes a really long time to find it. Sometimes it takes something to trigger that next step. I know that did for me. I'd spent 4 years not really progressing at all, just kind of in this horrible black hole. And then something happened. And I know exactly what it was that happened in my case. I have a lot to owe to Penelope Summers, even though she probably doesn't realise it. But she inspired me. She kick-started something, and it made all the difference at a time when I was obviously ripe for moving forward. And I will forever be grateful to her. Even if she doesn't realise it, I will forever be grateful to her. I don't know. This kind of went all over the place. I'm not sure if it made any sense at all. But anyway, I will keep you guys updated, and I'll see you in my next video. See ya.